Right now, though, it's over to Kevin, who's got the details on the latest sick man of the high street. We're talking Boots the Chemist.
Yes, in yet another blow to Britain's ailing high streets, Boots is set to close as many as 200 stores. The famous chemist's American owners say the chain has suffered its most difficult quarter of trading since the first branch opened in 1849.
What was it like, Kevin, that first show?
I remember going there. The selection of razor blades was very poor. But they've raised their game since then. They blame their decision to put thousands of jobs at risk on crippling business rates, which last year cost the company £144 million. The financial malaise has plunged an increasing number of big high street shops into survival struggles, including Toys R Us, House of Fraser, Mothercare and Homebase. Marks and Spencer has been forced to announce swinging cuts, and even bargain basement Pound World has gone into administration. Experts insist that the rise of online shopping continues to make life difficult for traditional outlets. But that doesn't explain the ongoing success of cheap clothes retailer Primark, which is thriving despite having no online presence whatsoever. And the reason we know this is because our next guest told us. That's Kate Hardcastle, the retail expert, who joins us now. Yeah. Hello, Kate.
Afternoon, Kate. I love our cutting-edge high-tech studio. It's fantastic. I particularly like the cutting-edge high-tech way we can't ever speak to any of the guests.
Hello.
Hello,
hi, Kate. There you are at last. There you are at last. I was just saying that the last time you were on, you surprised us by telling us that Primark bucks the trend in the high street and does very well financially despite having no online presence. And yet Boots is the latest big company with an online presence to hit big trouble. Can you explain that anomaly?
Well, firstly, compliments to yourself and Matthew, because you've got a show that obviously the power leaders of the UK listen to. Wow. Primark are now looking into online presence. So quite clearly they heard that conversation and realised the error of their ways and needed to move into it. But yeah, we have Boots and this announcement from Boots, which is not surprising if you think about it. 2,500 different outlets across the UK. A lot of towns and cities have got a second, third store in there as well. And we've really got to get realistic with retail. If the brand isn't vibrant enough, if they don't have enough reason to draw a big enough customer base, it's going to be tough out there. And absolutely, first and foremost, I say all of this with complete respect to the workers in this environment who are struggling constantly with these types of announcements. But if a brand needs to survive, it needs to not only work out how to make sure it can physically do that with its finances and the model it operates within, it's got to wow the customer, even at the value parts of the world, the parts of the marketplace like Primark. So we've got a business that isn't just going to have to go through these cuts, but I think one that's going to have to really work out what its offer is for a modern day consumer.
So the big picture, Kate, I mean, is the high street, the British high street, is it dying? Is it in any way capable of combating the rise of online shopping?
I can only put a few decades of experience and say what I predict is, but I know that we've got great independent stores doing really well with great service, niche offering, and they're actually coming back against the tide, and they're saying, actually, we're going to stand for this small amount of product offering our knowledge in the marketplace, and we're just going to do it because we love it and be brilliant at it. So that's positive. I think if we've got councils and placemakers who are realistic and know that retail cannot be all that community place offers, and it can only be part of it.
I remember the story in Sheffield where they turned a rundown part of the city into just that. It was retail plus lots of stuff for people to do.
100% that's what it's about. So let's have a look at some of the things that it could solve. With an obesity crisis, we could actually involve sport and movement and physical places for children to run and play in safety environments. We've got a loneliness epidemic, so we could actually bring together people in the UK to spend time together and engage with each other. This doesn't need a shop front to do that, but if we can have retail as part of the mix, we'd be very happy if that was the case. So I don't think the high street's dead. I think actually retail plus, however you want to describe it, or social retail, is the way forward. And it can't just be a million Jamie restaurants or a million Boots, the chemist. It's got to be a whole varied approach, and one maybe that even reflects the wonderful, brilliant, different identities that all of our towns and cities here in the UK have.
Here to that, but I have to say with Boots that I'll be honest, I was stunned by the announcement today, absolutely stunned by it, because I can't remember the last time I went into a high street store that wasn't Boots or a sandwich shop. I get my sandwiches, and then everything else seems to come from Boots, whether it be suntan lotion on the rare occasions we get sun, toothpaste and toothbrushes, medicines whenever you need them. My missus is permanently in Boots, and for some reason it seems to be the kind of stuff that Boots sell isn't the stuff that I sort of think I can get that online, or it'd be easier online. Boots is always there. There's one on every high street. It's convenient, and I just don't understand why. You've had supermarkets have been selling some of the Boots range for many years now. I just don't understand why it suddenly seems to be running into problems.
I know you're a man of the people, but I think you might be a little bit disconnected on this one.
Go on.
Let's have a look at what they do. So beauty is a massive part of it. Beauty is actually a growing industry, but a lot of niche brands have come in and they've got their own online stores or even stores in towns and centres.
True.
They'd rather have all the profit themselves. When you look at Booth's own brand range, it's kind of missing the mark in terms of its consumers. It's got a bit of an M&S identity thing going on there.
I'll give you that, yeah.
Right, so let's move into baby care and baby wear. Well, guess who's coming as big players there? All the discount supermarkets that are land grabbing from all the big grocery sectors. We've even got the Poundlands and Pound Stretches of the world. They're enjoying aisles and aisles of health and beauty.
True.
So actually, when we start taking the pieces apart from each other, we have very big stores with a lot of different segments that all got big competition there.
Okay, but there's a trend there. Everything you've said I agree with, and I've seen it unfold, not over the last year or two, but over the last decade, I guess. And what I don't understand is the management at Boots, whether here or in the US, they must have seen these problems coming down the tracks. And again, I agree with what you said. My local Boots that I go to, it's pretty tatty around the edges. The store looks like it could do with some serious investment and tidying up. I still love the staff. They're very friendly. But the store itself just seems to have been allowed to go a little. And I would say that's similar for other Boots stores I've been into. And yet management seems very slow off the mark.
This is the thing. We've had this bell ringing for 10 odd years now. Right. And really, I do find it challenging when the CEOs make announcements saying, well, yes, we do need to improve the stores, but that costs cash. So would you prefer to have a store that looks nice or to have a store there at all? It's not acceptable. Some of these changes could have been made in your heyday. Some of these changes could have been made perhaps when the profits weren't being peeled out, and we could have reinvested in those organisations. Because let's just take a brand that's a little bit more abstract. Let's take a Neil's Yard, if you've ever heard of them. Aromatherapy specialist. What they've done is built within their business a whole clinic of alternative therapies, if you like. You've got acupuncture in there, chiropractor, physiotherapist, all with a brand above the door, and then it's all one kind of holistic place. If you buy into that treatment in that specialism, there it is. What could a Boots have looked like if it started regenerating 10 years ago? Gyms, yoga classes, well-being, health, even, clinics. Now, I know before anyone starts shouting me down, they have done this in the odd store here and there, but I'm talking about a big offer that could have actually redefined them as the well-being specialist in the UK. Could that have happened 10 years ago? Could that actually be an investment they could have made? I think so.
Kate Hardcastle, I didn't want to interrupt you, and I have no further questions because I think in that last assertion you've just about nailed it. Kate Hardcastle, thanks once again for making not just me think, but I hope many of the listeners think about how things could have changed if management were just a little bit sharper.